And hello and welcome to Live Coding Happy Hour for July 6th, 2018, special early edition. You're welcome, India. You're welcome, Europe, EMEA, APAC. Actually, it's more for scheduling reasons, but there you go. Welcome, Chuck Tomasi. Welcome, Andrew Barnes. We'll get the longer introductions in just a second, but we're going to be here doing some work. Chuck is going to demonstrate integrating with Todoist, which is an exciting topic. We had our demo. We took a swing at the pinata in trying to get basically a GTD app on ServiceNow, which had a lot of promise, but ultimately we decided that a purpose-built app kind of had more to offer. So, but Todoist, has a lot of hooks, and Chuck is going to work through integrating with them. So, gentlemen, if you'll introduce yourself, Chuck.
Hey, my name is Chuck Tomasi from ServiceNow. I've been on the platform for about 10 years, a couple as a customer, and the rest as an employee in professional services, services enablement, solution consulting, and you name it. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I can't think of something more fun to do. Also, the host of the TechNow series. We will be having another one on July 10th around the script debugger. Where's my desk bell? Ding. Also do a series that you can find on this same channel on YouTube on the ServiceNow developer program called Tech Shorts, and on the community channel called Community Livestream, which I do every weekday. Just jump into the community and start answering questions and see where the discussion goes.
All right. Andrew?
Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Barnes. I'm a ServiceNow architect at a client, Novant Health. I've been on the platform for about 4 years now, and this is just my favorite thing to do. We're a little early today, but that's exciting for our European audience for sure. And I'm excited to dive into Todoist because, as I said before the stream, I've had like 4 or 5 things bubble up in the last 2 weeks that just have encouraged me to go there.
Fantastic. I think so. 2 of the 3 of us are heavy Todoist users, so I think you will enjoy the invitation to the tent. So I am Dave Slusher. I am developer advocate with ServiceNow. I work for the developer program, developer.servicenow.com, which brings you a lot of this good stuff and trying to bring more of it. The show has been a little sporadic, mostly because of me and mostly because of just a lot of scheduling things. So summer and then a lot of behind the scenes ugly stuff is making it hard. So we're trying to get the train a little more on track. And with that, Andrew, I think you're drinking a fine tap water. Is that what you've got there?
The best I can do today is I have a fine tap water in a nice beer glass.
I should have got a Stone Brewing glass.
I have a nice Dunkin' Donuts brand coffee from Speedway.
I'm having a virgin screwdriver. Orange juice only.
All right. With that, Chuck, if you want to get the screen share,
yeah, you bet.
Take it away.
All right. Wait for Skype to do its thing. Pick the right screen and share, and I'll move that one off.
Hey, see if I can turn my camera off without hanging up the call, which is always a tricky one.
It's one of those buttons on the bottom.
Every time Skype moves a button, your muscle memory puts you at serious risk.
All right. Are we seeing the ServiceNow screen?
Yes, you look good.
We are.
Okay. Use case we have here is I've written an app for TechNow on ServiceNow, which is very meta, but it works. We finally got to the point about 6 months ago where we needed to start doing more planning in this process. So I'm giving you a peek behind the scenes of how that process is managed with an app, and it's constantly evolving. It seems like every episode we say, we should have a feature for this, or we need a table or a checkbox, just like real work does to you, right? Every customer's got this. The advantage here is I'm not only the customer, but also the developer, so the change is going really fast. and there's only one instance. I don't promote this anywhere. It is live. So you are looking at the data for our episode for next Tuesday on the script debugger. And what I want to do is take a pre-canned set of tasks. Every episode we have tasks that have to happen before the episode goes out. After the episode goes out, they're being delegated to other people on the team. Set of tasks. Whoa, that was cool.
Nope.
and take that and turn that into, I'm looking at YouTube. We got kind of a weird screen share thing going on. There's a lot of empty space going on. Anyway.
There is a lot of blank space there. At least you're not cut off to the side this time.
Well, that's good, because there's not much I can do about that. I am doing a full screen share. So take that pre-canned set of tasks and copy it over to each episode, which I have done with a simple UI action. Here's my episode tasks. And in the TechNow app, I have these template tasks. I should have called these template tasks, but I just called them tasks at the time. And you can see I've got to, give Steven the weekly draft of the PowerPoint and walk through 2 weeks before the show and do the live episode and blah, 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 blah. And then afterwards, there's a couple things to do with posting on the community. So let me go back to my recent records. I so love that icon. And if I say generate tasks, it will copy those over with a couple extra fields added. Now, the templates only have text, assigned to, and order. That's really all I need to know. However, the actual tasks, as they're instantiated, I'm going to call it that, have a state. Is it being worked on? Is it done? I only have 2 states right now, open and complete. And then I've also added pointers or references or whatever you want to call them, coalesce values for the project ID and the task ID that I'm going to put in Todoist. Now, I'm not going to go through a whole Todoist tutorial, but I'm using the web interface here on an account I made up just a little while ago, so I'm not exposing any personal information. This is just a dummy test account. I've made a work project, a home project, and areas of focus. So someday maybe I'm a GTD guy, so you might recognize some of this stuff. And under work, I've got the various shows that we do, live coding happy hour, tech shorts, etc., and broken those down into each episode. So if I click the TechNow episode, I see the tasks under there, and I can add tasks very easily. So for episode 54, call Craig. Very easy. They've made it quick to make data entry. You can put in dates like Tuesday, and it will put it on. You could integrate this with Google Calendar and push it over there. Lots of beauty of Todoist is very open APIs. I've got this thing hooked into my Amazon Echo. I've got it hooked into IFTTT recipes. Not this particular one. My real account does. So, I mean, we realized the garbage trucks went by while I was doing the community live stream. And I asked my wife, I said, did we forget garbage again? She said, yes. I said, I can fix that. So I told Alexa, set a reminder for me to take the garbage out on Thursday night. And now I don't have to worry about that anymore. Before I go to bed, I always like to make sure my task list is down to 0. And if it's not, I'm going to have to take out the garbage on Thursday night. So that's a little primer on what you can do. With the settings under this cog icon, they have integrations, which makes it easy to integrate to pre-existing services. You can even get a calendar feed, Google Calendar, again, very easy to do. And there's an API token. The reason I made this dummy account is so I'm not exposing any new information, but I could issue a new token at any time. I then went to the REST API reference and did a little bit of homework. So we're not reading API information more than we have to. There are 2 ways of doing this authorization. One is to simply pass your personal token in a header, authorization bearer, done. Or you can do OAuth. And if you've watched Live Coding Happy Hour before, our OAuth champion is no longer in the show. And I don't want to struggle through that right now.
I will absolutely admit that like doing OAuth without having Josh around is it's usually not my first choice. It's a muscle I need to get strengthened because it's so prevalent and I feel so weak, Yeah.
So this should have been a good excuse to do that. But since they offer the personal API token version, I took that as a cheap and easy route. So how I usually approach these at the onset is I want to do something like get a list of projects. So let's do something real simple. Here is a curl command. I'm not going to, here's the command and here's the response. Again, wonderful documentation on their open APIs. I like to start in Studio and bring up the TechNow app.
Yeah, and I was impressed by the example API calls they had when I went to check it out before the show. I was like, oh, that's actually a useful example. Thank you.
think I started a REST message here, but I didn't go anywhere with it. And the API for projects is right here. I just got that right off of this page, not that page. I'm one tab off. Sorry, it's behind something on the screen. So HTTPS beta Todoist API V8 projects. That's as far as I got. The authentication, I said there's no authentication because it uses a token. I put the authorization, the header in there with that personal token. And now I need to make a new method. Let's see if we can get those projects. So get project list, name it something creative. It is a get method, right? We got that off of there. Yep, curl says it's a get. I love examples. I've always enjoyed examples when I read documentation. The endpoint is going to be what it was before. I don't know that. Do you need to copy that from the parent record, or will it inherit it?
It will.
It'll inherit it.
If not specified, it will inherit, and if specified, it'll basically override.
Okay.
It's not required to have it in both places.
Okay. It's
basically
same...
like a subclass. If there was something you wanted to have in common across a lot of them, you'd put it in the parent.
Oh, okay. What did I just click that I wanted to save it? Anyway. But you know what? This is the projects, and I am going to be doing something with the tasks. So let me, whoops. You know, I've seen that happen before. I go and hit Command C, and it thinks I hit something else to create a new object, a new file. Let's put that in there, just so it's clear to the method what we're doing. And I want, theoretically, I should just be able to test that. There were no other arguments on there, right? Let's go do a test. And my response is, I have an inbox, projects. A work, a TechNow episode 54. They're not exactly hierarchical. I don't see any parent in here or but that's not the point. The point is I have projects, I have a list, I could associate. Now we have an architectural question to ask. I have a project name here in Todoist. Let me close this so we can go back to my project list. I have these projects, and I also have an episode. Do I want to correlate the project with the episode? I would say that's a logical connection.
Can you go back to your payload for 1 second?
Yes.
I think it actually is hierarchical. I think it's just weird in the way it's not.
What are you seeing?
It's order. Not in the JSON, the order and the indent. I think those are your hierarchy.
You're right.
So it's not.
It is crafting that.
Yeah.
It's actually a weird way to do it because you would think that the more JSON-y way to do it would be to do that via containment.
I would think so too. Here's an array, and inside of that is an object that has an array, that kind of thing.
So if the hierarchy is important to you, you could actually build it out of this thing. But I don't know if that's
I don't think it is at this point. I just need to say, somewhere in ServiceNow, I'd like to say, okay, you've got these tasks. What project do you want to put them under?
And this is, by the way, this is what happens every time you touch any API. It's the what weird thing do you do that no other API in the world does? I've never seen containment handled like this.
And it's analogous to OAuth, and I always say that if you've ever done any home improvement projects, my favorite is hanging pre-hung doors. I had to do that in my old house. I replaced all the doors and all the woodwork. And yeah, you go to Home Depot and you get a 34-inch door with the frame, and it looks like it's all ready to go. But there is some shimming you need to do, and because no frame is ever the same. So this pre-hung door, which is standard measurement, quality cut, beautifully done, hinges and everything, you still have to jigger and figure and trim and plane, and every time. It's different every time. And that's the way that a lot of APIs are as well. Okay. I don't know how many times I reference Home Depot when I'm talking about software.
Well, it's got a lot of similarities, so it's easy.
It does. And this is a platform, and you can, let's go build a window. All right. So I think what I need to do is add something in here that says you are related to this particular project. Now, the other question is, do we want to store the list of projects in ServiceNow, or just save a string that says the project name or project ID? I would think a project ID would be safer because you could rename it in Todoist. We need some connector between the episode in ServiceNow and the project in Todoist. So I would think adding a project ID field somewhere in here would be easy, right?
I think so. If you want something immutable, that probably is the way to go, because if you, let's say you rename the project in Todoist, you don't want it to come in as a new different thing.
Right. All your connections would be bonkers. Okay. Right. So given that, we really didn't need a Todoist project ID down here in the task. We just needed what task it's associated, and then we could dot walk to get the project ID. But all right, let's. I like getting the data model in my head squared away first. So easiest way I'm going to do this. It doesn't have to be on the form, so I'm not going to put it on the form. Let's just get our episode table. Well, tables is a silly thing now.
It's amazing how fast your table can explode. Your list of tables can explode when you're building something.
All right, so let's. This was just meant to keep track of a show. The Todoist project ID. And you know what? I'm not going to get real fanciful in this and try and pull it in and display it and let somebody select it. It's going to be a string, and I believe 40 characters ought to do it. It didn't look terribly long to me. Did you? You think we're safe with get all projects? Yeah. Based on what we saw, 40 ought to do it. Okay.
I mean, a GUID is 32, so the sysids and most GUIDs are 32. So
we're not going to use the sysid, but somewhere in there, you know what? Maybe I do want it on the form just to practice. Or did it put it on the form somewhere where I didn't care for?
Probably put it on the form for you.
All right. Good enough for now. No, I'm sorry. I'm just going to be a little too anal for that. I'm going to move it right under number. Probably make it read only at some point. Let's take that right there. Make you configure your form layout nice and fast. And we had a test, right? We had a test run in here. I want TechNow episode 54 is going to be that project ID. Just for later. We're going to save that for later. Okay. Now, I'm not automating a whole lot here yet. But what I do want is, that was my response. I got to go back to the method. I'm going to copy and paste the sample code. Since we know that worked, let's do the preview script usage thing. And
so, Chuck, I was pressing a lot of buttons and I may have missed. Did you say what's your ultimate success case for what
my ultimate success case is when I hit this generate tasks and it fills this list in, which I should probably clear out so it doesn't do it again. When it creates these tasks, I ultimately have those same tasks under episode 54.
So ServiceNow is creating the tasks into
ServiceNow is creating the tasks from a template that it has. Yes, Todoist has templates. You can import a CSV, you can import just text. There's a lot of different ways you can do this to import them into Todoist. But I want the management of the episode in ServiceNow, top to bottom. That's where I want to go. The more we can put into ServiceNow, the better. That's my central control hub. But Todoist is what I'm walking around with my phone going, oh, I did that. I did that. I did that. And ultimately, when I start checking them off in Todoist, I want them to be marked complete in ServiceNow as well. That would be our bonus. I don't know if we're going to get there today or if we save that for another episode. So I'm going to take this code and save it over in a text editor on the other screen, just because we have that sample. And let's do another one where we create a task. I'm playing on the atomic level, and I haven't created any molecules yet. Let's go back to our REST message and create another method. We'll call this one create task. And this one, if I remember the API that I was doing earlier, is going to be tasks. Create a new task. It's going to be a post. It has some content. Ooh, and it gets real fun here with the variables. Same endpoint, except it's /tasks instead of /projects. And we really need to watch the headers. This is where you can get seriously screwed up, kids. I don't know what this request ID is here, but I did look it up and it said it's optional. It says you can use it. It's nice if you want to keep track of different things. But there's our authorization token again, so we can keep that from the REST message and inherit in the method like we did with the other one. So let's try and make a quick create task. It's a post. How many times have I forgotten to do that? The endpoint is a little bit different. I forgot to copy and paste that.
The tasks. Nice.
It calls that the programmer's best friend. Copy and paste. The request is going to have a header, content, type, application, JSON. If you don't do that, I know you get an error 400. And then my content down here, what I want is, let's just make something hard-coded for now. JSON payload of, hit the right keys there, Charles. It was content and then something, test, task. Correct?
Yep.
Project ID is going to be, let's put that in a variable for now, because we can always make use of that later. I don't think we need a due date yet. Let's just create that. See if it creates a task in the right project. That ought to be simple enough. Did I miss anything? We could put a due date string in there. It's
order
very
might
good.
Be important.
Oh, order?
Order, because that's the ordering of them on the, that's their hierarchy, right?
Unless it creates them in that order. I don't know if let's find out.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that's order within whatever project they're contained.
Right.
Was there an order parameter that we could use on the create new task? Let's find out. Here's the API.
There
order. It's not required. Non-zero integer value used by clients to sort tasks inside a project. Okay. So I could use my order field from my record. That would be nice.
Because you have order in ServiceNow, so I thought you might want that.
You bet. Originally, I was just going to use it as a ServiceNow thing, but I think we can do that. Let's do order. Oops. Try this. And then down here, let's save that real quick. REST APIs 101. Go down to our variables. And we had project ID. And I'm going to...
You missed the opportunity to click the button.
What button?
The create variables from your...
Well...
The...
Really?
Yeah.
Auto-generate variables. You think so? Really? Is it that easy? Oh, dude, that's cool.
Yeah.
I should totally skip that. All right, I'm good. Let's go back up here and get my project ID. Put that in here. And just for laughs, let's make sure hundreds work. This is not 1, 2, 3, 4. That doesn't space out and go, what are you doing? Hey, that's a related list, so I don't need to do a save here. Everything else is saved. You ready? You ready? Pull the trigger. I have no idea. I got a 200. Holy Toledo. Ooh. It created. Look it. That's good. Now the acid test. Over here. Oh, booyah. This is so far easier than I expected. Might run out of orange juice on this one. Sweet, sweet nectar. All right.
Nice.
That's good.
That's great.
That's good. Very easy API. Okay. And again, all I'm doing is using this bearer token from my personal ID. You go, well, Chuck, what if you need to assign something to Dave? Or what if you need to assign something to Craig? Todoist has projects in them where you can delegate, where you can make a shared project.
Oh, nice.
And say, invite other people. So what I could do, in theory, I'm probably not going to get this far today, but if I take those tasks and say, it's assigned to Chuck, pass that over to Todoist. I don't know how it keeps track of its people yet. I haven't checked. In fact, maybe that's in the API. Hold on. I'll bet there's something down here about assigned to or owner or something. Due date. Oh, it's not in here. Okay, we're gonna have to dig into that.
Just to discuss the OAuth and bearer token thing. To me, as long as you're doing this for yourself,
you only need one.
You don't need the OAuth. The OAuth is too complicated, like for something that you have full control over. But at the point where you decided that you were going to transmit this to somebody else, that would make OAuth sense.
Maybe, and that's kind of where I'm getting around this with the Todoist projects, because you and I share a project. I could still use my credentials and assign the task in Todoist to you. It will show up in your project as your task.
Right. Even if it was OAuth, like you're not gonna have multiple different OAuth. Like unless I authenticated and you authenticated, you're still not going to have all of that. You're still going to be generating it from one place anyway.
Correct. Yeah, you'll still generate it as Chuck, and it just goes to somewhere that Chuck can go.
So in this use case, I think it works well that we can just do this. But if we had, say, Dave wanted to manage his projects in ServiceNow and send them over to Todoist, and I had a different set of projects, that's where it would get to be, all right, we need to associate these people and their authentication. Yeah. Good clarification. All right. So what's next? Do we need a business rule that says when you create? Well, I want the script from this one too. Where's my test? Back here. Let's get the script for this method.
And so, do you want a business rule or do you want a UI action for this?
No, that's a good point. That's an architectural question.
From what you said, it sounded like you wanted to invoke this at, which could be a business rule, but it could also be,
Well, you might have something there because I've got the UI action to generate the task. That's what populates this list. I could, in theory, why do I need a business rule that says, hey, a task has been created. Go fire up this REST API and do that. It would protect me against somebody manually creating a task. Maybe this project has a one-off unique thing. If I put it in the UI action, which is currently calling a script include to generate the tasks from that template table, then it would be all in one package. I tend to think that it's a business rule is watching the records and what happens to them. Therefore, my instinct tells me a business rule is a better use case here because somebody could go, you know what? There's one other task that fits in here at 220.
Well, and what happens? What do you envision happening if somebody edits one of these after creation?
I mean, like changing the text or the order?
Like if someone like, do you want it to sync? Is it a mutual creation, or is it a live sync through the life of that in both places?
Good question. We do have an API to update a task. We could probably build that out, but let's do that as a secondary thing. Looks like it just passes the content. Shouldn't this be passing a project ID or a task ID in update? That seems a little odd.
Got in the it's got the number in the URL.
Oh, it's up there. You're right. Ta-da! You're so smart. Okay.
And Craig has offered that responsible_UID is an integer who's the user ID responsible for the task.
Is that in there?
It's not in this example reference, but...
Okay. You found it somewhere else.
He's saying that's on the Todoist side.
So on the Todoist. Responsible_UID. So they have a separate set of UID, so I need to match that so that my Todoist Chuck knows about my ServiceNow Chuck, or there's a connection there somewhere.
Yeah, that's really that begins to up the complexity considerably, because then you have to like pull those all back for everyone you know that you're going to be assigning something to.
Right, and hope their display values match. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. We'll worry about the.
We'll get that. We'll worry about that scope creep later.
That's phase two. Phase two. All right, where were we going? We wanted to. My next step would probably be to
We were going to create a business rule.
Either the business rule or the script include that the business rule calls.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want to do for it? I guess that sort of settles it.
The script include first.
Yep. I was going to say, speaking out loud, and it sort of fell out of my mouth.
Yeah.
The
nice thing is if you decide later that you want to have a button to invoke it, you can do that as well.
Right.
Because we're going to put all the functionality in here and just call it where we need it.
So what do we need to do? We need a function to get projects. Do we need to get projects right now? I don't know if this is going to help us in any way. Let's do the simple one first. Create task. And what information does create task need? It needs a task glide record, I would think. That's one of the arguments.
Yeah.
And that gives it a whole bunch of information. What we need is to start with the code that I copied before, paste it in here, and align that. Okay, very good. Oh, can I do a quick tip that somebody pointed out a while ago?
Absolutely.
There is an error with the tiny MCE editor. If you do something like var a equals empty brackets, that it kind of royally screws things up afterwards. If you hit this button to format your code, it does this erroneous extra indent.
And that's weird. Not just with a var a. It's any time that you use an inline.
It does this erroneous.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oddly enough, if you have properties in here and you start breaking it apart like this, it's fine.
As soon as it's not inline anymore, it's fine. But the inline just confuses it royally.
There is a fix. And I learned this from the Service Portal world, because the Service Portal world doesn't have these icons up on top. You can do a select all, shift tab, and it works better. And I've stopped using that icon. In fact, I almost forgot it was there because someone said, "Hey, this is broke." And I said, "No, it's not. I format just fine." They said, "What are you doing?"
So that's interesting. So the button and the shift tab are invoking different methods.
Sets of code.
Nice.
It's a PRB out there, but someone has rated it not worthy to fix. I can't tell you why. Let me haul this back because I'm just a little. Hey, where's my little thing that says I can't adjust the. It's probably off the screen because of the font size. There it is. That's weird. You make the font too big, you can't adjust your vertical bar. And never mind. Forget it. It's not worth that much effort. All right. I was on my script include. We were writing some code. We do not need this. We don't need any of this stuff. We're not doing a mid server. God help us if we had Todoist behind a mid server.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
Everything goes through the mid server.
Behind a mid server, pretty much.
So this would be taskgr dot order, right? This we copied up to the parent record. So this is taskgr dot episode dot Todoist project ID. Ugh. When variables get too long, I kind of get queasy. That's about it. Do we want to do anything with the response? Maybe log it. What do you guys normally do when you really don't care about your response payload?
At least for development, I usually log them because if what I'm trying to do is work with the code that ingests that, what I want to do is be able to replay it with live responses sometimes.
Okay. So
certainly I have done that where I go back and I say, because there have been situations where for some, let's say 9 out of 10 calls work and one doesn't, you want to be able to debug with that one that didn't work. So you might run it through the script debugger or something like that. So I have found having that logged, like having the full verbatim payload logged, quite helpful sometimes.
That look good to you? Didn't make any grievous mistakes?
No objections here.
Okay. Should we do a quick unit test on it?
Yes.
I like unit testing. Let's take a task like create PPD test. Copy the sysid. I'm going to... Somebody's getting a little alert happy on me. I get friends who have conversations. Well, I really don't want a conversation, so let me mute my phone. And I'm going to bring the text editor in here because it's easier to see and sometimes easier to write my unit test this way. So let's do var task gr equals new glide record x snc TechNow, not task, episode task. Will it fit on the screen? Yes. Okay. Task gr.get. And
that is way more typing than I ever do.
For what?
Anything. I would have never typed out that table name.
Oh, you would have copy and pasted it? I only typed it because I know it.
Yeah. I don't type any table names if I can avoid it.
I can never remember Larry Wall's 3 virtues of programmer, which were hubris, impatience, and laziness, I think.
Todoist util, new Todoist. And we want to do a tu dot create task gr. Ta-da. Copy over to scripts background. There's one of my shortcuts in here. I'm in the right scope. Let her rip. Oh man. It's just, it still says test task. Oh, wait a minute. Why did it say test task? Oh, and right. Let's get rid of these. Delete. Here's another trick you can do. Cancel that. You can do a shift click. And then up here where it says more, delete many of them. Okay. I always forget that's there.
That's a sneaky more button that hides many things. I like it.
You can delete the entire project, but I don't want to delete the entire project. Okay. It created test task. There's something in my REST API that is hard-coded. Would you agree somewhere? Todoist REST message. And if anybody can explain that thing on the bottom of the screen, I'd love to hear it. Let me refresh that methods list. Create task. Well,
yeah,
there it is.
I've got a PRB for that string in the bottom of Studio.
That's yours, huh? You own it.
Well, I don't own it. I just reported it.
Let's create a content variable and pass that. That would work better than hard coding. Guess I really didn't need to do that.
Look at Dave saying hello in Turkish.
All right. There it is. I'm losing my tabs. Content is, we need to use $content here. In the quotes. Don't forget your quotes, kids. JSON gets really cranky without them. Normally, I'm a single quote kind of person, except when it comes to JSON payload, which is technically double quoted. You can get away with single, but if you go to any kind of JSON validator, it'll scream at you. All right. So now that I've got that, I need to go back to my script declude and add that parameter, which would be kind of nice that it's not hard-coded. Let's do copy of this line. Copy this line. Paste that. Change that to content. taskgr.text. This is why we unit test. Make sure your script include is working before you start putting it in a business rule UI action workflow or wherever. That's nice.
And one tip I have for that is I take that and I put it in the description of the script include, or I create a whole nother script include to invoke all the test cases I want for a different script include.
You're talking about the unit testing part?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
I do that in a script include.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I hadn't thought of that. I like that. Just plaster it in like that, huh?
Just plaster it in like that. And if I have a long one, I'll actually create a separate script include that will perform all of my unit tests for a different script include.
There's also, Chris Malloy still has an app out there on the community that has a unit test management app in there. It hasn't been updated in quite some time, so I don't know what the viability of that code is. But last I checked in Dublin or Eureka, it was hanging on pretty well. Anywho, good tip. I'm going to start using that. That's why we do this, right? And it worked. My @ is indicating a label, but I don't have any labels. Let's make one real quick. You have no labels. Oh, you must upgrade to use labels. Okay, never mind. This is a test account. I'm not going to pay for 2. It also has some gamification on here. 147 points. Whew. I think creating an account just gets you 100.
Otherwise known as 0.
Now, let's take it to the next step. Let's create that business rule. Man, time is flying. But we are making great success. This wasn't nearly as complex as I thought. Probably because we didn't do OAuth. Create Todoist task. Watch table. Come on. Episode. Wouldn't be too many tables with the episode in it. Episode task. When to run. We do need advanced. When to run after insert. Not before. We don't need an update on this one for create task. We don't need any other conditions. Just checking. Just checking.
So do you really want it to be after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to explain why?
Sure, but I like to do async when I'm doing an outbound REST call.
That's an even better idea, but I believe REST is async by default.
Sure, but I like to make the business rule
okay.
Async just so that I know when I'm here that it is for sure not going to hold up my user session.
I thought
doesn't it require it in a scoped app? Isn't that required to be an async?
Not all business rules. Or are you talking about REST?
Trying to think where it might be somewhere different. There's somewhere where you are forced in a scoped app to use async.
For REST or for the business rules?
I was saying it was business rules, but I think my mind is jumping the tracks into something different.
Okay. I hadn't heard that. That would be kind of confusing in certain situations. But okay, I thought you were going to give me the argument of before versus after, but you're talking after versus async. You are correct. Async is underappreciated, including me. I always forget that it's there and use cases for it, but this would be a very good one, in my opinion. Might even be redundant, but we don't know. So here, my business rule simply needs to take my 2 lines here. In fact, that could be 1 line. We're not actually instantiating that for any good reason. We can just say new Todoist .create task current.
Current. Yay.
I love small business rules. That's my goal in life. Keep UI actions and business rules as tight as possible. And it's even kind of self-documenting too. You see that? It says Todoist create task. Anybody, including me, 2 years from now, under the influence of alcohol, could figure out what that does. There's your hidden characters. They're sort of half buried now. It's like, let me know what you hear on that, Andrew.
Yeah.
All right, back to the testing board. Let's clear out Todoist. Over here, I'll do a delete task. Are you sure? Yes. And
right, so now we need to create a new task. Episode task.
Oh, I'm going to use my other. I'm going to do like 12 of them at once.
Nice.
Come on. This is. I might get some transaction rate limiting going on with Todoist. You can't do that so fast. Haven't run into that yet. Okay, so my tasks are empty. My generate task is going to pull out of the templates, dump them in here. That business rule will be hit 12 times, sending off. We only unit tested that once. This is where I get nervous. That's from the UI action. The tasks are there. And
oh, look at that.
Oh, even cooler. Look at this. This is an Evernote link. It recognizes Evernote:// and puts the icon there. So had I been using this on my mobile device or the native app on a Mac or Windows, you click this and it will bring you to that note. This is really cool. This is working better. Are they in the right order? Fill, review, create, practice. Let's just do a quick validation. Fill, review, create, practice. I'm going to say that's yes. So the order is correct.
Here's where the data led me astray. So you've got someone in the chain named Stephen Weekly, right?
Yes.
I thought that was.
I'm surprised the parser didn't pick that up.
I thought that was a thing from. I thought that was an unparsed recurrence stipulator.
That's a good point. You know what? What would happen if I started typing that? If I said sent to Stephen
Weekly.
Yeah. It would have I'm surprised the parser did not pick that up, because if I backspace, then it'll turn it into it'll ignore the parsing. You can, if that gets in your way, let me tell you this, Todoist students, you can turn off the text parsing, and then you're forced to put this over here and say weekly. Mm-hmm. Okay. Totally different use case. I have mine on my production account. I turned the text parsing off because that was getting in the way too many times.
I'm going to guess that probably is either happening. It's got to be happening in like a client-side JavaScript. So like maybe that stuff just doesn't, like all that, AI.
Maybe
recognition doesn't happen.
I can validate this when I put in my production API key. And if I get the labels, then I'll know it's working. If I don't get the labels, then we have other problems.
And the nice thing is, if you put it in there one time and save it, and then we retrieve it in ServiceNow, we can see how they're storing it, and that's probably how they want to consume it if you're sending it in via API.
But Chuck, you're actually going to have a problem there because if you're doing it, if it's all or nothing, you're either going to get that label parsed, and you're going to get that parsed as send it to Stephen every week.
Yep.
You're either going to get both of them or neither of them.
I know. I'm trying to reconcile that in my head, but I don't have an answer. The other thing I'm trying to reconcile is, I just forgot it. I was going to say, we have about 10 minutes. Do we want to try and get the update going? So when I check one of these off, it changes the state back here.
Well, let me throw a little scope. Let me throw a little creep into your scope here. So that thing that Chuck, that Craig was talking about, and I was looking for it in the API and I was not seeing it. Yeah. That's because he was referencing it in the sync API, which is there is a whole nother set of API.
Okay, so we may not even want to do update task. Sync API gives us a webhook too, which leads me down to, do we want to write a scripted REST API as the endpoint for Todoist to come back? I'm thinking that's my thought on the architecture of doing that. Mm-hmm. So there's a sync API up here on the top. That worked out well. Why is it going to GitHub? Oh, because it's on. Interesting. Oh, you know what? There probably isn't a V7. It's probably a V8.
The sync is definitely V7.
The sync is 7. Yeah, I have it up.
Why isn't it coming up? Let me reload that page. I don't know why is the sync not coming up?
Because it's
click the sync API at the top.
I did, and that's where I'm getting the error.
It's a bad reference then.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
developer
yeah.
Todoist sync.
I'm getting the same thing.
V7.
Developer Todoist.com.
How did I get here? I'm on the GitHub.io page when I went
think
to their API.
Their REST has a different domain,
Okay.
but the links
settings.
are referential, and so they're
integrations. Well, maybe it was just my dumb Google searching this morning that brought me there. How it works, pricing, logout, open web app. That's not where I want to go. Okay. Todoist sync API.
Yeah, that is
developer.todoist sync v7. Okay. For whatever reason, they have a V8 REST API, but I haven't looked into the differences. So yes, they have versioned APIs, which is good. Look at all this. Sync, project, templates, items, update, filter, quick, blah, 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 blah.
And that's where he got the sense of users and getting their IDs and being able to set them onto tasks.
And the label. So you could do you got actually kind of an ugly decision to make there, which is you don't necessarily want to have to parse out everything that they parse out. I mean, you don't want to have to re-implement their parsing. At the same time, it may not be like if they did the parsing, we would have clearly seen some erroneous behavior.
Where I see everything but tasks on here.
See, I don't think you. I think you go over to this API after. I don't think it replaces the other one. I think it works in concert with the other one.
Right, but if I wanted to sync a task,
under the sync API.
Yeah. There's got to be a webhook that says you checked something, therefore I'm going to call your endpoint.
I'm not sure.
I think I found this by going like this. Todoist. Come on. Todoist webhook. And developer search webhooks. Oh, there is a webhooks on there already. I just missed it.
Yeah, it's towards the bottom.
Towards the bottom. Webhooks. And it says you must add an app. Todoist Webhooks API receive real-time notifications in the HTTP post payload. Important considerations. For configuration, you need to go to the app management console and add your app. And the app says, what is the endpoint? So if I said ServiceNow, TechNow, I need some endpoint here. And I'm thinking that would be a scripted REST API.
Scripted REST API. Absolutely.
Yep.
So sort of like we do the Slack integrations.
Yeah. Okay. So should we make one real quick? How quick can we make a scripted REST API?
If all you want to do is accept the payload and log it, you can do that super quick.
Let's do that. And then I can parse it out and update the right task with the right ID and all that good stuff.
Which, by the way, is how I start every webhook scripted REST API.
Just log it to make sure you're getting what you get.
Just log it. Just do the simplest thing because, like, I learned this 2 decades ago in continuous integration world. Right? You want to have at the very beginning, you want to have a dumb implementation because if it's not working, you don't want to have a lot of complexity to figure out.
Build it step by step. Yep.
If you have literally no logic happening in there and it's not working, then it means it's something in the plumbing between the two.
Let's do a resource. This is going to be a post, right? Has to be. They are going to post to us.
Right.
And we're going to call this, I really didn't name that quite right. I should have called this Todoist here. Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Usually put like a sync on there.
Well, then the resource
I would just
might be a sync.
I would just say like Todoist webhooks, right? Because it's like you don't want to necessarily name the action because it can be a lot of actions.
Right. Yeah. The service needs to be. I'm thinking the service is going to be generic. That's part of your URL. You don't want to be redundant, kind of like naming a table and a scope the same thing. That's silly in my opinion. Then my resources. Let's close that. Start again. Okay. So I've got XS&C, TechNow /Todoist. Let's make a quick new resource, and we'll call this Update task. Get post.
What I'm saying, well, I mean, this is your party, but
I'm open to ideas.
Everything, whether it's update task or label or whatever, they're all going to have the same webhook URL. You don't have a different webhook URL base. You don't have a different endpoint based on what because that's all going to change in the body of the post. So it's
wouldn't that mean that just means your relative path is empty? You don't have to put anything after the Todoist part.
I'm just talking about for the naming of it.
Okay.
I would give it something more generic, because if you say update
give me an
task,
idea.
I say just accept webhook or something like that.
Okay.
Because if you name it update task, you will be getting webhooks that are not update tasks at the same place.
You are correct. Okay, so this is where we try and remember our dot walking to get our data. All right. So it's request dot data get the body.
Body dot, is it body dot get data?
Body dot data?
Yeah.
Data.
Data can be.
Then you can get into your fields, but data should be just the.
You can do data
structure.
string if you want, just the
to string it.
No, just data string. Body dot
data
string.
Data stream. The body of the request is a stream. Note this object provides no functions to manipulate the data stream. Rather, this object can be passed to another API.
Go down
so this
one.
This is an object, not a string.
Data string.
Oh, okay. I was reading the description of the wrong entire thing. And then just log it, right? It didn't say we had to send back a response code or anything, did it? So we didn't finish reading the instructions. Wasn't there. We're too far into it. Let's see what happens. Maybe Todoist will freak out.
They don't generally require that much. I'm not sure I've run across webhooks that require you to tell them specific things.
Yeah.
I would expect it to send back a 200 to say, okay. So do I need to stringify this? Probably. Yes. No.
I don't think you do. I think it's already a string. Yeah.
All right. I probably should name the variable content string then. I can't resist. Response dot set. Is it send code set?
That status? Is that what you want to do?
Yes. Thank you. HTTP status code 200. Probably has to be a string too. Too bad. Okay. Let's go back to Todoist. Management console, and my URL was https technowdev.servicenow.com/xsnc technow Todoist. Nothing. Right? Is that it?
And I'm with Andrew. There's no chance I would ever have typed that.
Yeah. Never.
API. I forgot API.
That's why I would have never typed that.
I always forget the API.
I would have popped open REST API Explorer and then copied and pasted what was in there.
That's a perfect use for REST API Explorer. Okay, create app. We have an app. We have a client ID and a client secret. Ooh, that's sounding smells like OAuth now. We need a redirect URL. Can we just start firing at this thing? Well, we need to.
That's got to be inbound, right? That's a different thing. The webhook doesn't require that.
Yeah.
Right. So if we want to send something in now, that's part of the app that you can do is.
Yeah, I think you're looking at two things. I think that's not required for your webhook.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just go ahead and like.
But don't we need to configure something over on the sync API? We didn't really finish reading what was available in webhooks.
So in Slack, you have to subscribe your app to certain webhooks because you don't want to get them all. So I imagine there's the same thing here.
Yeah, if you look
set
at
up your
list,
app and then you subscribe
right
your app to things.
There's your set of.
So go back to the management console and see if there's a
manage app. Oh man, am I on the wrong page again? What the heck?
Yeah, you're back on GitHub.
How did I? Yet there's a sync API over here. How did I get here? Try this again. App Management Console. All right. Your applications. Well, that got me a little too far back.
Did we not?
I saved.
Okay.
ServiceNow, TechNow. There we go.
Yeah. Then if we click in here, maybe they have a no. Okay.
No, there's not really much in here. Analytics.
There we go.
Oh,
there's
create
Webhooks,
test
yeah.
token. Webhooks.
And then you select the ones you want.
In fact, that's where your webhook.
That's where my URL went. So what was up here? Just for the fun of it?
I think that's just like the overall URL for your app.
And I want anytime an item is updated or completed or whatever. We can do more.
They might actually be using that top URL for partial, authentication that when you're coming inbound with your client secret, that you have to be coming from that endpoint.
I think it's
that
probably
could be a thing.
I think it's probably lower tech than that. I think if you're having another different web service, I think that's just the top level. I'm guessing. I think that probably doesn't control anything. That's probably informational.
All right, let's do something in Todoist and see if it fires off that hook. We should see a log message in our log if we do this, right? First task completed. Nice work. I've earned some more points.
Did you get points?
I get points. I got your points right here. Okay. Then over to the logs. Yes.
Yeah.
See what happens. Because Todoist isn't going to tell us something broke. I'm not. Internal server error. Create task server. I got create task fried. That was 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, that was a little bit ago.
Okay, well, I better look into that. That doesn't look too healthy. That's not recent. That's not recent. Maybe it takes a second. No, we're not firing the webhook for whatever reason. Might have to resume next week.
Yeah.
I hate leaving on a down note, but boy, we made some good progress.
I'll tell you the one, and somewhere I would have to go look at a blog post. There was one webhook that never fired because their content type, it was one that I was trying to get to hit my instance, and the content type it sends is, I think, text XML of the post, which is by default is not one that it's not one of the accepted negotiation ones you can pick from the drop down. So you have to do some very weird stuff to deal with any webhook that doesn't do that. I'm not suggesting that's what this is, but there can be, like, if you don't even see it happen, there can a lot of times, like content type negotiation or something like that might be, or something even more fundamental than that.
I'll do some more reading on the webhook documentation to figure out what these proper settings should be. We could be off a little bit here, especially with that OAuth stuff at the top. And but I mean, this was a stretch goal anyway. We got basic task creation into Todoist working fine. Oh, yeah, you know what else we didn't keep? We do need to process the response code because we didn't hook up. Oops. We didn't store the tasks. So when ServiceNow says, hey, I'm done, we didn't store these Todoist task IDs down here on the bottom of the
list. So that we can
correlate those. All right. That's easy parsing, though.
All right. Fantastic. All right. Well, tell you what, let's we'll hold up there and leave something on the table for the next time.
All right. Go back. Yeah. I mean, there's some more work we could do here, and it's good basic training for REST APIs on a nice workbench. Stop sharing. Turn on the camera. I don't know. I've never done an orange juice review, though.
All right. Okay. And let me see if I can find the buttons. You guys talk while I find my buttons somewhere on a VM.
So next week, you are doing a debugging session on TechNow, which is going to be awesome, I hope. because I love the script debugger and not enough people know about it or how to use it and
Isn't that
why
crazy?
it's useful.
It's been out a year and a half and we still don't use it enough.
I'm going to tell you at when I go out to developer meetups, I have demonstrated that. I think at every one I've been at, like no matter what I'm demonstrating, I also demonstrate that, because I just ask people who has used it, and it's usually a third or fewer of the
That's a good
attendees.
topic.
We blow minds every time we do it. So
the repo that the code that I'm using in Tuesday's demo is available in a public repo. So if you wanted to use that for future demos, you could walk through exactly what I do on that TechNow episode.
Mm-hmm.
It has some built-in problems. I hate writing code with problems. It's like you get it all working, and then you got to inject something. Go, will this explain my point?
One thing that I always walk through with every developer, just a suggestion for you on your show, I'm sure you got most of it mapped out, is just watching the progression of a glide record instantiation, like watching it create the new object that has nothing in it, then the query, then the actual next, and showing that just.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Like people don't really understand what's happening during that progression and why they are failing when they don't do parts of it right. And that really like locks it in because they can see it visually that, when those things are actually happening, when you actually have, fields and values from that glide record object that's returned.
I've got to check my use case. I think I have an example that I can use for that, though. So it might be, I've got a practice session blocked out later today, so I'll see if I can dig into that. Good point. Thank you. Certainly, sir.
All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Chuck. That was cool, interesting stuff. And, that I would say that's got to be on the easier end of APIs that we've dealt with. Like,
I'm good for the easy ones.
Some of them, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I can't remember which one it was. A SIFT, one of the ones that required AWS style code signing and canonicalizing. I've actually gotten to the point where if that's what an API requires, then I kind of move it down the stack.
Something else.
Like I look for an alternative API, honestly.
I started looking at the Nest API for my thermostat, and it got really involved with some sort of callback authentication method, and it was just, I couldn't even get authenticated. It was over my head, and I went, I give up. It's
a interesting part of the Web 2.0, or I don't know if we're on Web 3.0 at this point, but if you think about the economy of that, the easier you make it to get stuff out of your app, it's very much the ServiceNow philosophy, right? Yep. The easier you make it to get stuff in and out of your app, the easier it is to get it used. So letting people use other things makes your app more valuable. It's kind of an interesting dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you. I know that we got some people in parts of the world that normally our time is not friendly to. So welcome, everybody. If this is the first time you've been in live synchronously. And thanks to everybody. Enjoy your holidays if you're off and watching this later. And we will catch you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.